I really wish more people would play the Tales series. I mean, I guess the big turnoff is the cover art. People see the super anime art style and just assume that it's another Japanese RPG. Turn-based, slow, boring, about love and compassion and friendship, yada yada yada. Where's the guns? Where's the brown? Where's the gore? This series cover art doesn't exactly convey that the game deals with mass war, genocide of entire universes, the killing of a deity, racism, classism, ismism, but I digress. However, along with the cover art that doesn't exactly convey all the power behind each game, the titles are a little confusing too. What on earth is a symphonia? What is a Zisteria? Well, allow me to explain the meaning behind each title. Some of the game titles do make a bit of sense, such as the first one, Tales of Fantasia. It turns out the game is based on an unreleased novel named Tale Fantasia. Fantasia is a play on the word Fantasia. You see, they just replaced the F with a PH! Because, you know, English being as weird as it is seems to think that P sounds the same as F. Fantasia has a few definitions, but the most fitting one is this: a work, most commonly a poem or a play, in which the author's fantasy wanders unrestricted. It can also mean something possessing grotesque, bizarre, or unreal qualities. In other words, Fantasia is a fancy way of saying fantasy. It's a fantasy game. It's the Tales of a fantasy game. Good to know they started off creatively. The next game was Tales of Destiny. It's the easiest of the bunch. It's about a group of characters that were all born, predetermined, predestined to meet their swordians, which are sentient swords, and save the world. They all followed their destiny, and the game thus was called Tales of Destiny. Jeez, these first few were a lot simpler than they are today. The next one was called Tales of Eternia, because that's the name of the world they all inhabit. Eternia. But why is the world they live in called Eternia? Well, I guess by world I more mean the name of their universe, their domain. Tales of Eternia is about two worlds, Celestia and Inferia. Wait, say that again. Celestia, as in celestials, high beings, they live in the stars, they're amazing, and Inferia. The land the root word is literally inferior. This world is literally named after its not as goodness as the other world. Even the names of their governments is the Inferior Empire, the inferior government. But the plane of existence, the universe that they all live in, is all infinite and will last for an eternity, and thus is called Eternia. Then came Tales of Destiny 2, which is the sequel to the game where they followed their destiny. And now, we reach the confusing titles. Tales of Symphonia. But what's a symphonia? Despite the name, this game has nothing to do with a symphony of instruments, but rather it's about the idea of a symphony. A symphony is a beautiful masterpiece created by a large number of various instruments. The plot of the game is about a group of people from different walks of life going on a journey to restore the mana, the life energy of their world. But along the journey, by the way, spoiler alert to all these. I might be a little late on that, but spoiler alert. But along the journey, they find out that replenishing their mana will cause the mana of a parallel world to drain, and that world will begin decaying away. But if they don't restore their own mana, then their world will decay away. As one world flows with mana, the other is in a drought. They are never balanced, never in harmony. So our heroes all join forces and do all they can to bring the two worlds into harmony with each other, blending the two worlds into one perfect balance, like a well-harmonized symphony. And then add an ia, symphonia, because that's what they do. Based on the name Tales of Rebirth, you might assume that the game has something to do with birthing, or baptism, or reincarnation. But no, there's none of that here. Instead, it's actually about a rebirth of culture and moral views. Here, the world is inhabited by two different groups, Humas and Gajumas. Back in ancient times, they were fine, but now they are extremely bigoted and racist against each other. But as the plot progresses and the heroes go on their journey, they look past their differences and are reborn as one solid people once again. Okay, Namco, I don't know what you're thinking anymore. Can you not think of another word that ends with Y and replace it with IA anymore? You're stuck using Legendia?
Boss, I have the best idea for the title. Tales of the Legends.
No, that's a bad idea. That's terrible. Where's the IA? This series, among many others, must be consumed by the Pac-Man, Nia. Pac-Mania!
But...
No buts. Make the title Tales of Legendia.
But that's a little...
Are you back-talking me, boy? Don't make me use the power pellet.
Whoa, that's a good idea. You're always right, boss.
Yes. Always right. Yeah!
Legendia, the IA means nothing. This game is just about a group of people, both the protagonists and the antagonists, chasing various legends. It's the Tales of the Legends. Tales of the Abyss keeps it simple again, though. It's about an abyss underneath the planet that's all full of miasma. And as the strings of fate that the planet is bound by start to snap, so too does the balance of the planet over the miasma, and it begins to sink, falling into the abyss, both physically and spiritually. As the spiritual force that granted them guidance into a perfect future, a perfect fate, no longer applies, they now have no idea what the future holds. It's empty. It's an abyss. So even with the simpler title, you can still take it a step deeper. And it's amazing. That's a smart title, and that's also a really good Tales game. Tales of Innocence also has multiple meanings. For one, the plot takes place in a world that's in the middle of a world war that's affecting every part of the globe, except for a place called Regnum. It's at peace with everyone. They are innocent, but people with special powers start popping up here. As it turns out, they are reincarnations of the Develokian, which are essentially evil demons. And even though they, in their current lives, are innocent, they are dealing with the repercussions of the things they did in their past lives. Vesperia, for Tales of Vesperia, is Latin for an evening star, and in-game it's the name of the brightest star in the sky. The protagonists here also form a guild, and guess what they call it? Vesperia, of course. Tales of Hearts, rather than being about organs that pump blood, is actually about the other kind of heart. I'm sure most people actually assumed that. I'm just being funny. The word heart, as in your spirit, your emotions, and your soul. Kind of like in Kingdom Hearts. It takes place in a world where there are deadly monsters that eat people's spiria, their hearts. Kind of like Kingdom Hearts. There are also people with the ability to enter people's spiria, which is like a giant labyrinth. And these people can even move their spiria from person to person. Basically, the whole plot revolves around spiria, which is basically someone's heart and soul. But what's with the R at the end of the title? Well, Tales of Hearts R is actually a remake of the original Tales of Hearts. Tales of Hearts was a Japan-only DS game, but later they remade it on the PlayStation Vita and released it worldwide, now known as Tales of Hearts R. Tales of Graces has a much more friendly atmosphere compared to the other Tales games, and the story heavily revolves around the power of friendship, especially the friendship around Sophie. So Grace here could be referring to the simple grace that is companionship, but I think there's more to it than that. Referring to someone as Your Grace often has to do with royalty and elegance, higher class. This particular group of protagonists includes a royal knight in training, a major in the military, a member of a prominent family, granddaughter of a butler, a veteran instructor of the Knight Academy, and the prince. Easily the most royal and upper-class group of protagonists from any Tales game. There is another meaning of graces, though. Forgiveness and blessings. In many ways, Sophie helped all of her friends, helped them grow, and learn to forgive one another. She was a blessing to them. But now, what about that F at the end of the title? Well, again, Tales of Graces was originally a Japan-only Wii game, but then was later remade on the PlayStation 3 and was labeled Tales of Graces F. The F stands for Future. Don't ask me, ask Namco. And now it's time for Tales of Xillia, the 13th main Tales game. There has been other Tales games, but they were all spin-offs. I need to make that clear. And I'm not the one making this up so that it fits my point or anything. It's officially, according to Namco, Tales of Xillia is the 13th game in the series.
Yes.
I'm not pulling strings. In Roman numerals, 13 is XIII. Add IA to the end of that because Namco seems to like doing that with this series, and you've got Xillia. I sometimes look like L's when you put them in the right font. But that's not the only reason why Xillia is called that. The much bigger and important reason comes from Hideo Baba himself. He's the producer of the whole Tales franchise. Have you ever heard of the number zillion? With a Z, not an X. Basically, it's a fictional number made up to get across the idea of a massive, uncountable amount of things. There's like a zillion people in the world. There's zillions of stars. You know, when you don't know the exact number, but you know it's insanely massive and very difficult to count, people just say zillion. Now take the word zillion, change the Z to an X, and change the and to IA, and you've got Xillia. The reason the name is pulled from this massive fictional number is because the story revolves around the many events, people, and places you encounter throughout life, and the near limitless possibilities that they all include. And this makes even more sense when you include Tales of Xillia 2, the second Tales of Xillia game. In this game, the plot revolves heavily around multiverses, or parallel universes, each one with a different possibility happening in it. And you go through destroying them, committing mass genocide on entire universes worth of people. And now we have Tales of Zestiria, a game whose main protagonist is extremely passionate about what he does. His passion is what drives him, but it is also what drives the antagonists. Passion. Passion really is the spice of life, isn't it? It's so just zesty. I'm not even making that connection of thought up. That's what the creator himself said. They have a lot of fun with this series. But really now, you know your titles are confusing when the creator of them has to step up and explain what they all mean. Which, I'm sure, to some extent, does hurt the marketing a little bit in the Western world, along with the cover art. And I'm sure the next Tales game will be just as confusing, and we'll have to once again use our noggins to think up what the heck it means. Though I'm sure the creator will just explain it again. So until next time, stay awesome and keep using your heads. And tell me, down below in the comments, what your favorite Tales game is. And if you haven't played any of them, tell me what your favorite JRPG is. And why. I love seeing you guys using your heads down there. So, ta-ta. Title. Some of the game titles do make a bit of sense, such as the first one, Tales of Fantasia. It turns out the game is based on an unreleased novel named Tale Fantasia. Fantasia is a play on the... I really wish more people would play the Tales series. I mean, I guess the big turnoff is the cover art. People see the super anime art style and just assume that it's another Japanese RPG. Turn-based, slow, boring, about love and compassion and friendship, yada yada yada. Where's the guns? Where's the brown? Where's the gore? This series cover art doesn't exactly convey that the game deals with the word Fantasia. You see, they just replaced the F with a PH! Because, you know, English being as weird as it is seems to think that P sounds the same as F. Fantasia has a few definitions, but the most fitting one is this: a work, most commonly a poem or a play, in which the author's fantasy wanders unrestricted. It can also mean something possessing grotesque, bizarre, or unreal qualities. In other words, Fantasia is a fancy way of saying fantasy. It's a fantasy game. It's the Tales of a fantasy game. Good to know they started off creatively. The next game was Tales of Destiny. It's the easiest of the bunch. It's about a group of characters that were all born, predetermined, predestined to meet their soul with mass war, genocide of entire universes, the killing of a deity, racism, classism, ismism. But I digress. However, along with the cover art that doesn't exactly convey all the power behind each game, the titles are a little confusing too. What on earth is a symphonia? What is a Zisteria? Well, allow me to explain the meaning behind